Lowcountry Declaration of Resistance, July 4th, 2017. The Resistance Declaration of the subscribing peace and justice community of the South Carolina Lowcountry.
When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for those who have dedicated themselves to the causes of fairness, equity, and mercy in human affairs to declare themselves separate from a course of excess which has obtained control of the powers of government, and to assume a standing of active resistance against it for the purpose of guiding the nation back to the path towards a more perfect union. A decent respect for the processes of democratic government and reason requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to active opposition against their leader's error.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal, that they are endowed at the time of their creation with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, the government of the United States has been instituted, deriving its just powers from the consent of the governed.
That whenever a form of government becomes destructive to those ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundations on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to those people shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light or transient causes. Experience has shown Americans are disposed to suffer while such evils are sufferable, than to right them by abolishing the forms to which we have become accustomed.
But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the concentration of power and wealth into the hands of a few, are evidenced, it is their right, it is their duty to force the change or reform of such government and to provide improved and decent guards for their future security.
Such has been the patient sufferance of our citizens and fellow people. The history of Donald Trump's rise to and abuse of power is a history of deceit, corruption, and betrayal to both his supporters and opponents, with its object being the reduction of the people of this once great land to fear, ignorance, hunger, sickness, and death. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world.
He has degraded the truthfulness and dignity of the public dialogue necessary to the conduct of our government by the relentless propagation of lies, fraud, and deceit.
He has secreted or destroyed valuable stores of data and public information necessary to the rational conduct of government, removing the products of science, investigation, and learning from public view.
He has appointed persons unfit to serve in high office by their lack of experience, education, and defective temperament, so as to destroy the confidence of the people in the process of governance, while allowing the control of public affairs to devolve to others outside of public view, and on occasion immune from legal accountability for their actions. He has left hundreds of public offices empty, not even nominating persons to serve in them, because many will not serve a government under his control.
He has sought the destruction of our institutions of learning, primary, secondary, and collegiate, by depriving them of their means of support and denigrating those men and women who have dedicated their lives to the enlightenment of their fellow people and generations now rising to the moment of their adult responsibility.
He, with others, has refused the timely consideration of judges nominated by the previous administration during its elected term of office, both in the Supreme and lower courts, for the purpose of filling the bench with judges of his own choosing.
He has allowed the military to operate independent of civil power, increasing the deployment of troops without due consideration and in denigration of his authority and duty as commander-in-chief in order to evade responsibility for the consequences.
He has, amidst a maelstrom of confusion and deceit, conspired to deprive over 22 million persons of their means to guard their health, while reducing the lawful and appropriate taxation of the wealthiest people in our country, already greatly favored in fortune and privilege, by $1 trillion.
He has invited the contempt of the world upon us by careless and destructive participation in armed conflict in Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, which has resulted in the reckless or deliberate killing of hundreds of innocent people, the unnecessary destruction of property, and the creation of a culture of dejection and alienation, which shall ensure to this generation and those which follow the suffering, waste, and destruction of war.
He has, in defiance of the consensus and best judgment of the finest scientists on the planet, withdrawn the United States from the Paris Accord and committed our nation to the continued destruction of our planet through the unrestrained emission of once sequestered carbon and organic compounds into our atmosphere, making certain in our particular case the destruction of our coast and cities which have proudly endured so many historic calamities.
He, with the collusion of others, has sought to strip women and persons of diverse practices of love their equal rights to control their bodies, select the partners of their affection, and enjoy the secure legal protection of their household.
He has treated those of different abilities with contempt and sought to undermine the decent and compassionate mechanisms of government essential to their survival and enjoyment of their rights as citizens.
He has proposed and attempted to destroy our public roads, infrastructure, and transportation, and to place their control in the grip of the wealthy and powerful by defunding and privatizing them, that they might be turned into engines of avarice, which may rob those required to travel of their savings, freedom, and privacy.
He has proposed and acted to bargain away our national treasures of parklands, minerals, waters, and forests for a pittance with the venal object of enriching his associates.
He has refused the protection of our shores to those immigrants and visitors who suffer from oppressions originating in no small part from our own actions, including those who have worked in support of our armed and intelligence services overseas.
He has threatened to erect an impractical wall to the insult of our long-standing ally Mexico and squandered millions on his impractical plans with the object of stirring up a distraction of popular prejudice against those who have long and loyally served our agriculture, industry, and communities as workers and friends.
He has directed the cruel and careless deportation of tens of thousands of undocumented immigrants, soon to be millions, whose lives here had formerly contributed to the quality and content of our own affairs, while crops rot, work is undone, and commerce struggles.
He has cut off from travel those who might benefit from visiting with our own people and who might directly enlighten us of their own circumstances of struggle.
He, with the active and corrupt support of those possessing wealth and power, has drawn our public officials into the degrading and inappropriate vandalism of our tradition and practice of democratic government and attempted to deprive citizens of their right to vote, transforming our shared capacity to decide and shape our future into a bizarre circus of incompetence, collusion, and treason.
He has promoted the use of violence and lethal weapons as an ordinary resort in the resolution of civil disputes, encouraging increasing violence among the population.
He has repeatedly, and without good cause, publicly insulted the mothers, sisters, and daughters of our nation by reference to their bodies, appearance, and natural functions in terms offensive to polite society, with the intent to degrade the womanhood of the Republic.
He, with the treasonous cooperation of others, has colluded with a hostile foreign government to obtain his office, actively encouraging their intervention to obtain his election, providing them with our secrets and compromising our national security and independence.
He, with the malevolent participation of his chosen conspirators in countless other ways too numerous to recite here, has abused the tools and authority of his position to diminish the once generous and brave character of our nation, to the base pursuit of private profit and personal gain, and the exclusion of the precious fruits of kindness, scholarship, scientific progress, and the growing understanding of the content and capacity of the human heart, which once proudly marked the position of the American people in the contest of human affairs on earth.
We therefore, being those citizens who find ourselves acting in necessary resistance to these depredations, gathered in our communities on this day of historic recollection, appealing to the supreme judge of informed human reason and charitable understanding, and by our authority as free and active constituents of this democratic republic, solemnly publish and declare that we are now and shall continue to be committed to the sustained, active, and ultimately successful resistance against the actions, agenda, and deformed example of Donald Trump and those who act in unscrupulous accord with him. that we are unbound to respect him as anything more than a legally sanctioned holder of power, and have the full authority to gather, speak, petition, subvert, combine, imagine, and countervail with the aim of constraining and ending his rule of this nation. For the support of this resistance, with firm reliance on the power of citizens to correct the errors of their government, we pledge to each other our energy, thought, and mutual support until such time as the light of decency again shines across our land.